Welcome to podcast number 29. Once again, I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to these. Yes, it's been a crazy long break since I've done a podcast, and I've been a tad busy. And I decided to make this podcast an update podcast. I was going to incorporate my updates into the next podcast, which will come out very quickly after this. And I thought, I'll just put a few words in there, but I ended up talking too much, and then it would take away from it. So I'm going to do a separate update podcast. Here we go. This is kind of like what I did on my summer vacation deal. It's been a very, very busy summer. Lots going on. I've been literally all over. It seems like all over the world. I think I was gone from home over 30 days, never home more than 18 hours in a 30-day stretch. So pretty brutal, but also I wouldn't trade it for anything because of what I saw and what I was able to learn. A couple things. One, I was able to do a bunch of things on the amateur racing scene. And I was up in some different states. I got to hang around some of the amateur racing scene and see what's going on there. And there's a lot of good things happening in the amateur racing scene, and I'm glad that I got to spend some time in it. I definitely want to see more numbers in the amateur racing scene. And I would certainly like to see a lot less politics in the amateur racing scene, and a lot more camaraderie and racing going on in the amateur racing scene. But we are seeing some good things there. Contingencies coming back a little bit, and we are seeing a focus on our riding again. So some good stuff there. Professional racing scene, oh my gosh, a lot going on in this, and I could talk about this forever, and I'll probably come back to it in a little bit. But the bottom line between the amateur racing scene and the professional racing scene is that this really isn't rocket science. At the last New Jersey race, I spent a bunch of time talking to essentially all the front runners of all the classes, and all of these riders have pretty much one thing in common. They're not overcomplicating the sport. They're not, right? They're sticking with the fundamentals and not making things too complicated. Yes, there's a part where bike setup is a little bit of an issue, but for the most part, they're all thinking about their riding, and they're all thinking about how they can improve. And I wanted to kind of put that theme out there, and I'm going to come back to that a little bit. Had a really good trip to Spain and Portugal. I was able to spend some time over there. In the CEV series. Donnie Graves hosted me there with Jay Uribe. Got to work with Jay, and got to spend some time with the AGR team. And everybody says, go to Europe and you see what's going on, and you really get a taste of what's happening there. And having been to the UK and seeing some of that, a taste of some of that, this was something completely different. And I have a lot that I could go into with that, but what I will say is that the level of professionalism that's going on there in that sport and what's happening there is something that we need to strive to. And there just is another level there that it's one step below the World Championships, but how serious these guys are, how serious the riders are, is a huge deal. And of course, that doesn't even take into consideration what's happening. And you go to Spain, you pull up to a stoplight, and there's 50 scooters on each corner. I get that, and this is where something in the United States, I think we're a little bit off path on. So we want to get riders to Europe, right? We want to get riders in the World Championship Series. Well, what I think we need to look at, and one of the things I think we need to think about is, so who is doing well over in the moto championships right now, right? In the World Championships, who's doing well there, right? The Spanish riders, the Italian riders, that's who we're really seeing the big influx with. Well, why? It's because they've been investing in these programs, right? We're basically seeing the fruit of what the Spanish system has been doing, right? How they've been building riders. We're going to see that now with some of the riders from Italy and Rossi's stuff. We don't have that. Our Rick development camp is something that is going along those lines, but still nowhere near what needs to happen to build up American riders. And until we get serious, and until we put together a pathway for that, we're not going to get riders there. We're going to get a onesies and twosies, which is great, but we're not going to be successful like these guys are. And I firmly believe that we also need to have some sort of a prototype series here in American racing. Yeah, we're set up for production bike racing. I get that. We need to sell bikes. But I would love to see a prototype series here. So yeah, the bottom line with going to those places is they are incredibly professional. They're incredibly serious. From every person that works on the team, to how the pits are set up, to everything, and of course the riders as well. And I think that's something that we really, here in America, when we see riders from America go across and get into the world champ or get into some of the World Series, quite honestly, they're going to get their ass kicked. They're going to get their ass kicked because they're not working as hard as these guys are working. That's just how it is. So we can talk about it. We can talk about being on that bike. We can talk about being on that team. We can talk about bringing money. But the bottom line is we have some of the most talented riders in the world, but we're not working hard enough and we're not dedicated to getting those riders there. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. The final at New Jersey was fantastic. There's so much going on. There's so many championships on the line. It was great. Some amazing racing, definitely nail biters. Just very blessed to be able to work with the riders that I did. And, my riders, my riders ended up with 31 podiums in the Moto America Series. And those guys, also worked their ass off. All those guys, I would put any of them. Those guys, I'd put any of them in the World Championship Series. No problem. Why? Because they do work their ass off. And I know otherwise I wouldn't be working with them if they didn't have that work ethic and that drive and desire. So hats off to all those guys. I have a great series of podcasts coming up. One is an amazing statistic that we're going to do a complete podcast and article series on what JD Beach accomplished. So pretty neat there. But yeah, New Jersey was great to be there. Great to see that final, and just great to be part of that program. Also did some of the 2-up rides with Team Hammer on their 2-seater. That was very, very fun. Also a good article that came out over that from a car guy. Max Prince was the guy that did the article. It's on my website if you guys want to check out the article. It's also on my social media stuff. And those are the people that we want to support and bring over to our sport. Even though this is a car guy, he drives a car, seems very well. They have no clue of what our sport is about and how it's accomplished and all the forces that we go through. And great article. Please support it as well. So also a little bit update on how I'm doing. So yeah, I had that off back in late June. Things are going much better. Get my cycling back going. I still have some issues with the shoulder, but I'm still riding. Actually, I've set some personal bests already this summer, which is fantastic. Personal best on Miller outer loop on an FZ1. So it's not so bad, but that's slowly getting better. And I'm not going to wallow in that. Instead, I'm more motivated to get my health even stronger than it was before then. And if I want to get better and I want to succeed, I know I got to work harder. So that's how that works. So I have a lot more podcasts in the queue. I have a lot of scripts written, but I wanted to get this update kind of fired off and get everybody kind of back on task again. Hopefully, you guys will start to see that this is a completely self-sufficient program, right? It's just me and my little laptop with my wonderful microphone that Blaze and Matt got me. Part of our one of the donations that I got. I appreciate all the donations so far as well. But yeah, this is just me and my wonderful non-computer intellect trying to make this stuff happen. So any of the help I get from that, I very much appreciate, and I am trying to make things better with the quality and the sound of all these things. So I am definitely trying that. No sponsors as well. Yep, sorry, no sponsors. Nobody's ponied up the Mercedes C63 sponsorship yet. So, but I'm going to keep working on that. I have some. I'm going to do a separate podcast on what's going on with the RIC program for late 2016 and 2017. we have some really amazing things that are happening with the Rick program and people that are involved with it. I'm going to do a separate podcast on that one as well. One of the other things I did on my wonderful summer vacation was I did a couple of public speaking gigs. One was I did some speaking at Nike. And instead of getting into the ins and outs of the actual talk with Nike, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate my talk with Nike. And it's going to be very long. It's probably going to be an hour podcast. That's about probably how long the whole talk is going to be. So I'm going to make a completely separate podcast. It's going to be long. So yeah, grab your popcorn, grab your chair, and it'll be either very boring or it'll be very good entertainment. But yeah, the talk at Nike was essentially how excellence in motorcycles equals excellence in the rest of your life. And not only that, it's why coaching is important and why professional coaching is important and why we use sports to put into our business aspect. And more importantly, why motorcycle racing is the sport, why we choose excellence from. And there's just some fantastic takeaways in there, and we've got some great best practices that we established in there as well. So, all right, so there's podcast 29, kind of a little bit of an update of what I did on my summer vacation. Yeah, fantastic stuff. I'm happy to see the amateur racing scene is alive and well, and people are still wanting to do this. And I'm going to be involved in even a lot more of the amateur racing scene. You'll see me at a lot of the amateur races here late this year and also next year as well. Got some good things going there. Professional racing scene, I think we need some improvements there, and I think we're on the right page. And I'm hoping with the teams that I'm involved with and the riders that I'm involved with that we're going to see some nice things there as well. More than likely, I'll be doing some things back in Europe next year. I certainly hope so. There's a lot to be done there, and it's funny. This will be a separate podcast as well as what my job was there and how I interacted and what do I do on a race day. There's an absolute disconnect with what's happening between the riders, the crew chiefs, and the data people, and I'll explain that in that podcast. Very, very interesting. So there's that. You'll see a bunch more podcasts trickling down the deal. We'll give you something more into the Rick program as well. And if people are more interested in some of their public speaking or business talks, I do a lot of those as well. So you can always talk to me about those and how I could help out your company with those. So, all right, there we go. All right, more stuff coming up.